Thank you everyone for joining our webinar. Today is all about cybersecurity careers. So my name is Elaine Tanimura. I'm part of the PamTen team. And before we get started, I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping things. So everybody attending today's session will be on mute and your cameras are off. You'll be able to put your questions in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. And we'll also be providing this video to all attendees today. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about PamTen and SheTech. PamTen is a global IT staffing and services company with offices in Canada, the United States, and India. We offer a broad range of services, including IT staffing, strategic advisory services, custom IT solutions, cybersecurity services, and product development. SheTech is a nonprofit whose mission is to increase the number of women in technology jobs. We do that by providing mentorships, career opportunities, trainings, and more. For more information on either PamTen or SheTech, please visit our websites. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sujal to get us started.
Thanks, Elaine, and hello, everyone. Hopefully all of you are doing good, and very good morning to all of you. And yeah, so I have been part of these sessions for some time, and today for a change, I would be more of a host. And we have for two of our presenters. One is John, and the other one is Joseph. And over to you, John, for a quick introduction.
Sure, thanks, Sujal. Good morning, my name is John Mendez. I've been in IT for more years than I'd like to admit. I'm currently managing PamTen's cybersecurity practice, and I'm happy to be here. Joe?
Good day, everyone. My name is Joseph Nero. I'm the Canadian Sales Director and based out of Montreal, Canada. I have been working in the industry for now close to 40 years. The last 25 years has been in the technology space, and definitely we have done a lot of digital transformation projects in Canada and in the United States. So look forward to speak with you all, and let me know if there's anything I can do. Thank you.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Joe, for a quick introduction. So let me quickly get started on a few of the key items that we would be discussing today. It's more about the introduction to cybersecurity, how the job trend or job market is, and how can you become a cybersecurity or build a career in cybersecurity, and what are the technologies and areas that you can concentrate more around things like certifications and trainings. Okay, so on the screen, what you have right now is more about the high in-demand jobs, and all the jobs that are in demand are somewhere or the other directly or like related to cybersecurity in some way, form, or the other, right? So this has been a standard slide, and these are the kind of number of jobs that are growing in the market. And the top 10 are listed here, which includes most of them, as I said previously, that they are somewhere or the other related to cybersecurity and the other areas of software development. And as we progress, we'll have those correlations and the definitions added. Okay, so as you move to the next slide, this talks about the various cybersecurity roles that we have in the cybersecurity career roadmap. And probably this is something that, like we all aspire, and majorly like most of us, when we look at it from a perspective of starting a career, it's like an entry level, but how or what are the career progressions that we can do would be something that would be very enticing and enterprising for all of us to understand if we are planning to have a career in cybersecurity or switching our career from elsewhere. So John, probably if you would like to add certain points on apart from just the developer junior roles to supervisory and manager level roles, what are the kind of career progression that we can probably have on a cybersecurity career?
Well, thanks, Sujal. And I just want to focus on NICE a little bit. So for those who are unfamiliar with NICE, I mean, it's a great place to start your career planning journey. So you can find all this information online, but you can go to NICE, And what the NICE framework does is it maps out the different roles that exist within the profession and what the key skill sets are and how do you progress from role to role. So it's a really good place to begin. And it focuses on not only the career side of it, but also what are the areas within cybersecurity. So there's investigation, there's analysis that's done, there's protection and detection. So it's a good place for those who are unfamiliar with cybersecurity in general, or those who are familiar and just want to learn more about, where the opportunities are, not necessarily where the positions are, but what are the different skill sets and what are the different roles within the profession.
Great. Yeah, I think, this is definitely something that people, it's great to know about a NICE workforce framework, because again, for me itself, it's a new thing that I'm probably learning about, and a lot of, areas, like if you look at the grid here, it gives us a lot of information of what are the kind of roles. It's like, it's just not that you become a developer or an analyst. You have a huge list of items that you can actually cover from various aspects of cybersecurity. Okay, so this is more about like how these specialty areas are. What are the kind of key roles that we have from the perspective of operations as we grow or as we get into the cybersecurity career path, right? If you look at the screen, it's more about the key specialty areas that includes database administration, where you have administrators and data analysts. Then you have knowledge management, which is key in most of the areas or most of the industry areas in IT. And you have knowledge managers who are actually administering those areas. Customer service and technical support for any kind of support services that is provided in and around security, which includes security management, or rather, security related ticket addressing when you get a malware attacks or when you get any kind of intrusion into your organization. So you start with the incident management. So those are the key areas where you have customer services and technical support agents coming in. And then you have network services, system administrations, which is more about making sure that the entire environment is secured, the network is secured. And so these are the key specialty areas, and the roles are also listed, which is as we elaborate into system administration and network, probably this addresses, as the name says, it addresses that particular area with the specialty. So John, anything if you would like to add here, like, if somebody is looking at having a career on any of these areas, what would be your recommendation, like, how to concentrate if they are starting from scratch?
Yeah, so I think this is a good slide because it shows you the variety of job roles that exist within the cybersecurity job family. And as you can see, some of these roles are highly technical, such as a network, support specialist. Others are more analytical and consultative, such as a knowledge manager. So I would recommend you become accustomed to the framework and then begin to drill down into these different operational areas. And then within each role, take a look at what the description of that job role is. And that'll give you some insight to maybe, where you think you would fit best.
Mm-hmm. So John, like, as we discussed that, a quick question came into my mind, like, as somebody's from a different industry, right? And if they want to move into this, and maybe they might not be, purely technical, would a customer service and a technical support role be a good start for them as a stepping stone to the wide range of areas that they can cover in their career?
Yeah, I think, as with in most cases, right, you always want to leverage whatever knowledge you've gained. And if you're in customer service, for example, right, you've chosen that field because you've got some, I guess, affiliation to helping, to wanting to make people's lives easier. So I think a lot of those skills kind of transfer over. And I think we have a slide later on in this deck that focuses on personality types and kind of what personalities tend to work best in which roles. So that's a good mapping exercise, but that's a good point, Sujal. I think we all need to kind of, take stock and look at what our skills are, look at what we enjoy doing, and then use that as kind of the starting place to map out our career planning journey.
Okay, great. So this is more around the roles and responsibilities, right? That talks about analyst, administrator, and tester roles. As the name calls out, or the role talks about, it's pretty straightforward. But what we do and how we do things on these particular roles are something that talks about the responsibilities. Like from a perspective of cybersecurity analyst, it's more about plans, recommendation of changes in increase of security of various areas, which include system security, application security, network security, and stuff. System administration is more about hardware and purely hardware and software. And penetration testers are more about how to apply testing in terms of figuring out whether your networks or systems are hackable, or what are the kind of data that is being collected as we move forward with the system as that has been set up, and probably making certain security suggestions on the basis of the findings on what we test, right? So anything that you would like to add, John, here?
I think these are pretty common roles, and as you begin your search, you're going to see a lot of positions for security analysts, penetration testers, system admins. Just a word of caution, though, organizations tend to create their own job descriptions. So what a security analyst may be in Corporation A may not necessarily be what that organization B considers to be a security analyst. So it's important to read through those job descriptions, because there's a lot of overlay. And again, some organizations expect people to work in multiple roles, especially smaller companies. Whereas in a larger company, you're going to be much more segregated, and you'll have much more defined roles. So just be aware of what the job description says. Like any other job search, do your homework, find out what that company is into, find out and today it's pretty easy to do that looking at tools like LinkedIn and a lot of the social media platforms that are out there. Do your homework, do your investigation, find out who the hiring manager is if you can, but just be prepared.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is more about how the reporting structure works in the cybersecurity industry, right? So you have the junior roles, but from there, you have subject matter experts who then rolls up to senior management and then executive management. So this is the overall structure, and or rather the reporting structure in the industry. And this is quite standard. And do we see any kind of deviation here on these kind of reporting, John, or it stays almost the same as we talk about in any other industry?
I think it's highly dependent on the organization, right? So the larger the organization, the more formal of a reporting structure that's going to be in place. Smaller organizations may have multiple people filling multiple roles. But I mean, I think this diagram here is pretty standard.
Okay. Okay, would you like to take this part of the slides, John?
Well, I mean, it's pretty basic here. So this is really a layout, and this slide is a little dated, but it's a layout of what employers are looking for versus what the candidates are looking for. So as you can see, there's some gaps here, but overall, I mean, you really need a combination of hard technical skills, and you need certifications as well as soft skills. And especially in security, the ability, and this is important, I think, regardless of the position, but I think in security, sometimes when you're communicating with senior level management, they don't have that level of technical knowledge. And since really the buck stops at the senior management level, it's important to be able to verbalize and to be able to take highly complex concepts and events and be able to simplify them and put them into common business language that a senior level manager will understand.
Okay, from a perspective of cybersecurity, right? Like you look at it, this is more about how the industry is distributed, or what's the kind of volume of workforce that we see in this kind of industry. So the major part of cybersecurity runs through the IT industry with around 21%, because in today's date, anything and everything that we do is in some size, shape, and form is related to IT. Let's say, we starting from shipping something for a loved ones to probably, Facebook, to anything. They are somewhere or the other related to IT services. And then comes in the financial services piece, wherein, you start from any kind of financial frauds to detecting any kind of anomalies. That's where the financial services area comes in. And from government perspective, you have all your identity theft to anything that happens around that. That is again related to cybersecurity. Manufacturing, healthcare, education, consulting, and retail are again, some of the other forms which directly or indirectly related to cybersecurity, because all these regions or all these areas of industry has data, and wherever you have data, that's where data security and cybersecurity comes into picture, to make sure that those data are controlled, and it has access control, and it is not falling into wrong hands, or probably being utilized against or in a not a right manner. Probably like this is more around how, or house of cybersecurity also gets related here, because most of these industries are somewhere or the other related to us on day in, day out basis, starting from what we purchase to what we use at home. And somewhere or the other, they directly or indirectly, they get these industries do collect a lot of human information, which can be utilized from individual to an organization level against or to manipulate. So this is more about, for a cybersecurity professional to have skills. What are the kind of key skills that a professional should have? So John, maybe, this is something that you can elaborate, because, they are like, bullet points, but yeah, how or what are the key areas that we probably need to look at, and how to build these skills?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, you really need a combination of hard skills and soft skills. Risk management is a key, because really everything in security revolves around risk. And there's a misconception out there that, you can protect everything and you can make yourself invincible. And we all know that, that's really impossible. So it really all revolves around risk. So the ability to demonstrate and to illustrate that you understand how to identify risk, how to classify it, and how to communicate risk is very important. Networking is also important. So understanding basic, networking concepts, understanding the OSI model, communication protocols, firewalls are all very, very important, depending on which career path you take within the practice. But having a good, solid understanding of networking is very important. Situational awareness, right? Keeping yourself up to date, understanding what those threats are that exist out there, what the threat landscape is, what are the common, ransomware attacks or techniques that hackers are using. So just an ongoing, effort to make sure that you're keeping your skill sets up to date, you're learning what's changing in the industry, and tools. You'll need a combination of experience on hardware and different software platforms. So just get familiar with the various tools that are out there, understand what's being marketed today as far as protection goes, what controls are being focused on. It's such a broad spectrum. There's so much to learn. There's so many different platforms, so many different services. So it's easy to get overwhelmed, but just, kind of begin your search. Pick a career path that you think interests you and that you're qualified for, or that you're going to pursue qualifications in. And don't forget about those soft skills. So being able to communicate both verbally and in a written format is very important. And being able to take those technical concepts and technical issues and events and translate that into everyday business language. Because at the end of the day, senior management is responsible for security. So providing them with the ammunition that they need and the information that they need to make a decision is part of all of our responsibilities as cybersecurity practitioners.
Great, thanks, John. So this is more about the skill and the behavior, right? And how, or what are the types of personalities, and then what are the core attributes and skills. I think skills we already covered, and this is more of a correlative approach for the same, right? Like how the core attributes are related to exploration, problem solving, or for a student or a guardian, how that is going to be. So that is a relationship that we talk about on this slide.
Yeah, so this is the slide that I mentioned earlier that is a good mapping exercise. So what you have here are core attributes and skills. And then you've got personality types. So if you begin to do the mapping, if you look at skills and you see where those skills, where they map to what the best core attributes are, it gives you a good starting place. So for example, if you're an explorer, right? These are people that tend to be very inquisitive. They enjoy challenges. They want to learn something new. And those folks are probably, geared towards probably better geared towards a position as like a penetration tester, as opposed to a person who may be a problem solver. So someone who tends to be more analytical, more detail oriented. So if you're really unsure of where to begin, I would start with this slide. And we lifted this from an IBM study that was done a couple of years ago as part of their own internal efforts to identify the best candidates for certain types of positions. So I would take a minute, and as mentioned earlier, the slide deck will be provided, but take a minute and look at the slide when you receive the deck and kind of, figure out where you think you fit in this table.
Okay, and anyways, we would be sharing the videos. So, as we share the video, you can also access the same point here, and then maybe, pause and go through that. So value of certification, right? So cybersecurity is something wherein, we definitely need, you cannot just say that, you are a cybersecurity expert. You need a validation because it involves a lot of insightful decision making. It needs the organizational competencies to take it in the right direction. If you are identifying a threat, or if you're identifying any situation that needs to be handled as per security protocols. So the validation of competency is something that adds value, and hence, overall certification is very important for cybersecurity industry. It increases your ability to earn, because again, usually there are certain certifications in the industry, like CISSP, which is very limited, or very few people have it, and it is one of the very well paid opportunities or roles in the cybersecurity industry. And it also makes sure that there are progression paths from the certification perspective that keeps on, which helps you in continuing the competency build. Because again, from as we discussed in previously, that you start as a analyst or a developer, and then you go up, and as you go up the ranks, automatically your competencies have to improve. The decision making has to be more precise, and that's where all these certifications comes into picture with your experience.
And as in any profession, right, certifications are important. I mean, a certification isn't going to guarantee you a position, but it demonstrates that you've studied, you know the subject matter, and you know it well enough to be able to pass the exam.
Right, and these certifications are definitely tough, and you need a lot of experience and hands-on to, especially for CISM, CISSP, you definitely need a good hands-on. So as we move ahead, here I have some of those listed certifications that is high on demand, and wherein you have, these are all on the basis of the job roles available and how the demand of these certifications are. So you have the most basic one is more from CompTIA, Security Plus, and there are some network certifications that you get from CompTIA. And then you have CISM, CISA, CRISC, there are a lot of acronyms that comes into security business. But as I was talking about CISSP, that is Certified Information Systems Security Professional, right? It's quite a mouthful, but again, it helps you earn handful too. But yes, as John said, certification doesn't only help you land job. You need to be hands-on, and you need to know the stuff so that you get hired. And that's where real life experience, real life projects comes into picture.
And for those that are just getting started, I mean, I'd focus on the two at the bottom of the list, the CompTIA Security Plus and Network Plus. Those are good foundational level certifications. And the thing to remember with some of these certifications, especially the ones towards the top of that list, I mean, many require that you have a certain number of years in the profession. So for example, CRISC or the Certified Information Systems Auditor role, they require that you have a minimum of 3 years experience. And you'll need someone to attest to that. So you'll need a hiring manager, or you'll need your existing manager, or in some cases, previous managers to attest that you've worked in that role for a number of years. So as you kind of work your way up this list, the certifications become more complex. The prerequisites are more demanding. But for folks that are just getting started, I would focus on the CompTIA Security Plus and Network Plus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even when we look at these certifications, like most of the folks would be aware of Cisco, Microsoft. So there are two areas or two variety of certifications that you can do. One is more of vendor specific, that is specifically around Microsoft security. Cisco has CCNA or CCNP kind of certifications, and then there are more of vendor neutral ones, which includes CISSP, CompTIA, and these are more of a vendor neutral certifications that we have. Okay, so from an employer or employment perspective, there are the two top skills that everybody looks for, and as John also pointed out, as you get a risk or anything, you have to communicate. So there are two major aspects when it comes to cybersecurity. One is the analytical skill, and the other one is communicate. So you have to analyze if there is a risk, whether it's a risk or not. Once you analyze and categorize it as a risk, you have to be a good communicator to communicate that within the organization, so that the right people are notified and the right decisions. Like, say, for example, there is an immediate change that needs to go into the system. So those kind of things, you have to be in a good position to communicate and also get approvals on time, so that those changes can be implemented and it can curtail the risk. So some of the key skills that hiring managers look for is communication, risk management or risk assessment and management, info systems and security operations management, governance, virtualization, and incident management or incident response. So these are the few areas that we have, and majorly people fall short or are higher on these areas. Are any specific views that John, you would like to present on these key skills that we just pointed out?
No, I think you covered it. I mean, employers want everything, right? So they want you to have both technical hard skills. They want you to have good communication skills. What this chart does is it just kind of maps the difference from what an employer thinks is valuable as compared to what a candidate thinks is valuable. But I mean, this is a good slide, especially when you're preparing for an interview, to understand again what is that hiring manager looking for, and making sure that you're prepared to answer those types of questions.
Gotcha. So from a perspective of cybersecurity skills, right? Like this is probably something that excites most of you. That is, this is one of those industries that is growing, and the skill is very highly in demand. Okay, so from from this year to next, or rather from 2021 to another 5 years, which is 2025, the highly in demand roles or the growth that is anticipated in the industry is for application development security, which has around 164% growth. So if you aspire to be a developer with the security skills, that's an amazing ad, because that gets your, that helps you land a job faster and also earn better. Cloud security, and as I pointed out previously, like vendor specific security trainings or vendor specific certifications from Microsoft or AWS or Google, that could be something that could be a value add for cloud security. Risk management, threat intelligence, and then incident response. Incident response is growing at 37%, but it will be consistent because, again, the more and more tools and technologies comes into picture, the chances of penetration increases, and that's where your incident response and all that also comes into picture. Then compliance and control, data privacy. Again, everywhere we have data, starting from the watch that we probably wear as a wearable to the fire alarm system at home. Everything is connected in some way, form, or the other with the data and privacy information. So that is another key area. Then access management, security, and healthcare related information are something, again, which are at high risk. And these are the areas wherein we have the jobs increasing for securing those specific areas. Okay, so the top 3 benefits that, from a certification perspective, as an employee, or, what you get, and for leadership purpose, what it adds value, right? So from a perspective of a staff, how that works is it helps you gain more confidence in terms of driving and practicing security. It gives you confidence and validation of your expertise from an employer perspective also. And it also helps us, or helps the person who is certified to get more of how confident the customer or your the ex-client could feel when they talk to you with credentials or certifications that you have. From a leadership perspective, it helps you to take those key decisions. It helps you, drive or meet the challenges that you face from a security perspective and take the right decisions. And also, your knowledge and the current trend of privacy and penetration that is coming in. So that helps you take those key decisions, how those can be addressed and how that has to be managed. So these are the few areas that a security certification can help you with. From a perspective of cybersecurity salaries, these are kind of an industry standard pay systems that we have. And from a high level perspective, an entry level person can get up to 63K. From a early career perspective, it's another 11K increment. And then middle career, late career, and experienced folks keep on having a better growth, and maybe somewhere around 10 to 15 or up to 20% increments that happens from each career levels or number of years or band of years that you add. So that is at a high level from a experience perspective. The next is more of a certification perspective. What is the kind of salaries you get? And this is more like numbers. And from a perspective of CISM, this is more of security manager, security officer, and more of architect and analyst roles. And you have these numbers already available. One is more about the ones who are not certified compared to the next one, which is more of certified folks. So these numbers are available, and you can probably walk through as you refer these slides and the videos in future. And this more talks about all the certifications and what are the kind of roles for each certification. So if you plan to have any of those specific certifications that has been called out here, you have the roles and profiles related to that. And from there, you get the average salary and what is the kind of increment that you can expect from a career switch perspective, and what is the maximum range of salaries that you get on these roles are something that has been specified in next couple of slides. Okay, so now this is more about, from a perspective of SheTech also, how cybersecurity industry is currently being handled and how we can have more women power in this industry, right? Because currently, if you look at the slide, the percentage of women is pretty less, and how this can improve is something probably, John, you can add here.
Well, I mean, we all know that women, don't represent, especially in technical fields, don't represent a significant portion of the folks that are employed in that field. But I mean, it's a field with a lot of opportunity. There's a tremendous demand, and it's a good area for anyone, but especially women who either are in a technical career path today and are thinking about transitioning over to cybersecurity, or someone who's just graduated from a university and is wondering where to begin their career. I mean, cybersecurity does provide a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of programs in place today to get women engaged. I mean, there's, and Elaine can speak more to this, but there's organizations such as SheTech out there who are basically in the business of helping to promote women. There are a lot of government-led programs around getting more women in technical fields. So there's lots of opportunity, and especially for women today, there's lots of organizations that are really, focused on helping to get women into technical positions.
Right, and it's more about positions are there. It's just about getting those right approaches and right skills. And I think the industry is more, or rather, the job market is now open for, it doesn't matter in terms of gender anymore. It's more about the skills that you carry. So if we can build on what we have, that can actually get the percentage of women power in the cybersecurity space. Okay, so this is more about how do we plan a career in cybersecurity? What are the areas or the path that we should take? Okay, so it's more about not don't be intimidated. So that's obvious for anything that we do, and then it's more about focus. Which area? In the first slide from NICE, you would have seen there are lots and lots of positions. So we have to focus on one specific area that we want to grow in. And then it's more about getting trained. Networking, it's not the actual the networking on the IT side. It's more about networking on the human side. And then find a right mentor who has the industry experience and industry knowledge, who can guide you in the right direction. So John, anything that you would like to add here?
I think you covered it. I mean, it's important, as with anything else that you begin, right, to have a plan. So what's the plan, right? So identify an area of interest or a specific position if you know enough about the industry and about what those requirements are for that role, and then just go about putting together your plan, right? So what certifications do you need? Which courses do you need to take? How many years of experience do you need to obtain that certification? I mean, and Sujal touched on networking, but it's very important. I mean, and there are so many resources out there today. There are so many community forums for people that are interested in a career in cybersecurity, and we can provide a list after this webinar as well. But there's tons of free resources out there. Community organizations, a lot of these certification bodies have forums that you can join to to find out what a day in the life of a cybersecurity analyst is like, or access to free material to prepare for an exam. So there's lots of information out there, a lot of resources. Many of them are free, so take advantage of them.
Okay, so this is more about the approach that we should usually take as we need to focus on career and how we can progress, right? So the first and foremost thing is, how do we stand out from the crowd? So the first and foremost step is to identify, or rather pick up the right technology that we want to pursue. Okay, and then understand the correlation with the industry that we focus. Maybe like, if somebody is interested in healthcare, right? So you pick up a technology, it has to have relevance and importance in the healthcare industry. Based on that, what are the specific skills that you require, like analytical skill or understanding the health organization, how the health organizations work, what are the kind of data that comes into picture. So those kind of things which would help you in terms of analyzing that, and then become more of industry ready. So if you are getting a job in a healthcare, maybe in a hospital, right? Like, what are the kind of data you deal with? You deal with data that is certified under HIPAA. You have to maintain privacy of patients. You have to maintain, like, you cannot have the information shared, or there are a lot of things that comes into picture from the HIPAA perspective. So that's how you get to understand that particular industry, get industry ready, and then become job ready. Because if you're not job ready, probably from interview perspective, there are chances that you can make it 50-50, you clear the interview and you're done. But if you're not job ready, or you're not able to understand certain terminologies and certain areas of the business, how it works, it becomes challenging as you get into a job. So from that perspective, as John pointed out, we would be sharing certain links that you can follow, and certain groups and like forums where you can get all the information related to the industry, the growth pattern, the kind of roles, or the career ladder that you can go through, how they're related to various industries. So those information would be available as we share. Okay, so as we identify the right skill, so we have to do certain level of due diligence, which includes research on the skill that you have, your current skill, and what is a gap between what is an employer or from an employment perspective that is required. Understand the demand, filter out what are the core skills that is needed, and then get into the curriculum part, wherein once you know what are your core skills needed, you can have a action plan. What are the key curriculum items that you have to go through, or if it is certifications, or you have to, let's say it's a network certification. So first thing is you have to know the basics of networking, and then get into the advanced piece. And that's when you get ready for your CompTIA, Network Plus, or those Network Security Plus, or those kind of certifications. So you have to have an action plan. And as you have those action plans, and that's where where there are a lot of free content that is available, which John spoke about, which includes YouTube, Google, and these are all generic, right? You get most of the information in bits and pieces, but yes, it's not focused in a certain direction. Then you have technology level trainings that you get from various recordings, starting from YouTube, and when you search Google, there are hundreds and thousands of free videos that comes as material, and even PDF documents that you can read through. And then you have options of paid content, which includes Udemy, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning. And they are, again, like, they are subscription based. The cost is minimum. It gives you certain use case related trainings, and it gives you information about what are the industry specifics or industry requirements and stuff. Then comes in PamTen, and how we stand out is basically we just don't talk about the generic knowledge, which is which is standard in most of the areas, but we talk about technology specific training. You get hands-on use cases. Industry readiness, because again, we as an organization, as you would have already learned, that we have our own products, we have our own projects that we run internally. So you get access to those, and you get those project delivery related trainings also, because apart from just getting you the the trainings. We also make sure that you have the hands-on experience and you have the hands-on information to deal with all the specifics that is needed from the industry's perspective. Okay, so that's how PamTen stands out. And if you are interested in any of our trainings, you can reach out to us, and the email address would be shared towards the end of all the slides. Okay, so this is more about question and answers, and we are ready to take any questions that any of you have.
I know you were answering several questions during the presentation as well. I know Anna had quite a few questions.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at Anna's question. One is, what type of certification if you already have technical background? The kind of certifications that we can do. So, John, would you like to answer this question? Anna has a question that is, if you already have a technical background, what are the kind of certifications that she can go for?
Well, I think it goes back to the type of position that you're interested in, right? So I think it begins with understanding where you think, you fit best. So let's say, for example, you're a systems administrator, you're a network engineer, right? So you're probably better off focusing on more of a cybersecurity analyst type role, or possibly a penetration tester versus becoming a cybersecurity auditor. So I think looking at the role matrix and understanding where you think you fit in and what skills that you currently have are transferable, that'll kind of give you the start, and then look at the position and then determine which certifications. And that's pretty easy to do today, because many of the job descriptions out there will list the certifications that are required for the position.
Okay, yeah, and Anna had a few other questions too, like from a perspective of learning and understanding the basics of cybersecurity, and there are a couple of other questions from others. I would just consolidate all those questions together and put that as a one question, which is more about what are the resources that can be used for any kind of or staying updated on cybersecurity. And what would be the stepping stone towards understanding cybersecurity and getting themselves trained on it?
Well, I think the resources they're abundant. I mean, we've covered a lot of them in this session, but there's many resources out there that are free. So I would focus on those first. And as far as the stepping stone is concerned, I mean, I think it comes down to the individual really understanding what their qualifications are, what their interests are, and then mapping that to a specific role. And then once you've done that, then begin to identify, okay, well, what experience do I need? What certifications do I need to be able to prepare myself for that role? So it's beginning with the plan.
Right. And as you rightly said, John, right, it's all about how we, or rather what we want to do, right? It's not just cybersecurity or any other area. It's more like we need to have a plan, what we want to achieve, whether, we just want to start or we want to be an analyst, we do that step. However, if you are looking at a career, a long-term career out of, let's say, cybersecurity itself, so you have to have an action plan, like understand what area you want to work on. You want to be on network side of it, data side of it, data administration side of it, or system administration side of it. That decision has to be taken. And on the basis of that, each of those learning paths are going to be different. It's not going to be the same learning path that you would have, right? So it would be different learning path for each of the areas or specialities that you look for. So you have to first identify what is the key specialty that you would like to go for. And on the basis of that, you can probably take the steps.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion out there because it's such a broad field, right?
Right.
I mean, there are so many different roles. And again, many organizations kind of create their own role or require individuals to work in multiple roles. So I think just getting an understanding of what the positions are that are available is a good start. And then begin to map, what your interests are, what your existing experience is, and how that, can translate over into a particular role is a good start.
Okay. So, Joe, here I have one question for you, which is more about, having a career switch, right? Like with your experience. So what is your thought process, or what has been your experience about the career switches that we can do from, maybe doing whatever we are doing to something in and around cybersecurity?
Thanks, Sujal. Great presentation, John. Thank you so much. Very important content shared today. I believe that your career path, as John said, has to have a plan attached to it. And from a sales perspective to technical perspective, my job daily is to provide through the sales teams, help our customers identify where the threats are. And I can tell you there's a nearly 100% ratio of connection from the sales side with the customer, especially with all the different cyber attacks that we have, the ransomware. So we find that even through the sales process, we need to engage with our internal technical teams. And this is where we need the students to come in, because really we are being overflowed with demands on consultations, analytics, provide plans for the customers. So it's really, some folks have transitioned, to answer your question, Sujal, have transitioned from the sales back into technical, because often people from technical have moved into sales because they felt that was I want to be customer facing, because that again goes along with your profile, and that's why you got that chart to look at to see where your personality fits. But then there's also that thing of wanting to come back to and write the solution. So definitely there's a good hybrid mix, if I can use that word, from sales back to technical to sales. But the one thing for sure that we do need is to have the students come up, because there is a great demand over the next 5 to 7 years of requirement of specialty skills and certifications. Whether it's Canada or the US, I believe we're all in the same boat on this one here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and from a perspective of organizational security and individual security, from perspective of, as you have a lot of exposure to banks and stuff, right? So financial frauds, and from those perspective, how does the Canadian market look like?
I think the Canadian market looks similar to whether it be US or European or Asia. We are getting definitely in the Canadian market also at the banking. The banks are really upping their game in terms of adding. I see constantly requests for cyber analysts, cyber specialists, as they say, all the testing, the penetration testers. They are doing, the banks and the insurance companies are doing an enormous amount of preventative testing. There's a lot at risk. Like John said, this is a risk game. So we don't want to risk the consumer's data, the consumer's financial well-being. So definitely the banks are a great place to look at for a career and move forward, because I believe with all the cryptocurrencies coming up, there's going to be an enormous amount of requirements for cybersecurity folks.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the key points, cryptocurrency, and it's completely based out of, in the thin air, or rather internet and stuff, right? So with physical money and credit cards and stuff, we already had enough of last few decades, right? So we have a new era coming in, and we have to be well prepared with greater workforce to handle those kind of situations with cybersecurity, AI, and all those coming into picture or marrying together.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct, Sir Joe.
And so here Beverly has a question like, what is the lowest level you can start with and then grow up with the no IT background? So probably, I will answer the question a bit and then ask John probably to add on top of it. So here, like as we were talking about one of the roles, which was around customer service and technical support, right? So these are probably the first levels or, the very basic role that you can start with no major experience in IT. But yes, and as you have already mentioned, if you are hungry for knowledge, having or building a career from where you start is never important, but where you end is based on your hunger and your interest where you want to be. Right. So, and probably with that, I will stop and let John add on how, or rather, what is the minimum level you can start with and how you can move forward.
Well, I think some of the entry-level positions are security analysts. So there are many roles like systems administration or network engineering that require some level of security knowledge. But I would look at positions such as cybersecurity analyst, network engineering. So for example, if you've got some basic networking experience, you've got some technical knowledge, I would look at those Captiva courses, the Security Plus and the Networking Plus. Look at those certifications, but there's a lot of positions, right? So it's difficult to say, well, where should I start? It really needs to begin with, what skills do you have that are transferable, right? So for example, you may be a person with no technical training whatsoever, right? So if you're going to pursue a technical path, then you need to get some of the basic networking courses down. You need to get some of those entry-level foundational types of certifications. But if you're a person who, let's say, has a financial background, right? So you've got experience working in finance, you may decide to take more of an auditing type of a career path. So that would require a different type of certification. So I think the place to begin is, what skills do I have? How are they transferable? And you can compare those to what those job requirements are. And then what do I enjoy doing, right? So for a person who's non-technical and isn't, necessarily focused on technology, becoming a penetration tester or a network security analyst may not be the right path. You may want to go more along the lines of becoming an auditor or becoming an analyst that does risk assessments or audits. So trying to understand, what do you like to do? Balance that with what skills do you have, and then which of those skills are transferable, and then look at those roles and decide where you think you fit best.
Thank you, John. Okay, so, and here is the email address where you can drop in a note if you are interested to know more, or any of you have any further questions, or maybe even interested in any of the trainings. You can reach out to this email address and we would be getting back to you. And over to you, Elaine.
Sure, thank you. Thanks, John, Sujal, Joe, for a great presentation. Thanks everyone for joining us.